I have a bit of a cold, so don't get too close, but the show must go on. I promise my voiceover for the video sounds a lot better than this. Hello, Elizabeth here, and welcome to episode 1 of a series that I'm calling Crafting for the Heck of It. Recently, my husband lovingly and accurately pointed out that sometimes my perfectionism gets in the way and leads me to not be able to have fun crafting because I get so caught up in the details. So he suggested that I try out some cheap Amazon craft kits and just have fun with it, not try to teach anybody anything or make a very impressive end result. But if that's what you're looking for, I do have plenty of video content on my channel with lots of educational tutorials. I would love for you to check those out as well, but for today, I'm going to try this DIY Mosaic craft kit that he bought for me, and I've never done anything like this before, so I'm just gonna have fun with it. Thanks for joining me.
All right, so here is the Mosaic craft kit my husband bought for me. It says it's for ages 5+. I'm not so sure about that. So this kit is from Amazon, and honestly, it doesn't have the greatest reviews. And upon further research, I think I'm actually missing at least one item from this kit, but it's fine. Okay, so it came with one glove and a bag of mosaic tiles, this little sponge, and some instructions that don't really make any sense. We'll get to that, and a powdered like cement grout kind of situation, and a little wooden spoon, and a little disposable paper cup for mixing up your cement solution, and a base to put the mosaic in. I don't know if this is supposed to be a leaf or a feather. I thought it was a feather, but it said leaf in the listing. And then this tiny little paintbrush and a scraper stick thingy. So the instructions say to place the tiles in the wooden base with the pattern that you want, then wearing gloves to pour that cement powder into a disposable paper cup, fill it half with water and stir. Apply solid adhesive, the grout powder you just made, to the back of the mosaic, then place it back into the wooden base and glue it together. Then apply the mixed cement slurry evenly on the mosaic and scrape off the excess cement slurry with the scraper. Wet the sponge and wring it dry. Clean the mosaic surface with a sponge and let it dry for 24 hours. You will get a perfect work. So what I think I'm missing is number 3 says apply solid adhesive, and then in brackets it does say the grout powder you just made, but I noticed that some of the images on the listing for this product have like a glue in addition to the grout powder. So I think what you were supposed to do is put the glue on the back of each mosaic piece, let that dry, then put the grout powder on top so that you're not moving around your pieces because they're already kind of glued down, and then scrape off the excess, wipe it off, whatever. Maybe they don't include that anymore, and then they just made this amendment to the instructions telling you that the grout powder is the solid adhesive. I did my best to follow these instructions. Here we go. I'm also going to use a pair of tweezers. It didn't come with these, I just have these at home, but I thought it would be easier for placing all of my mosaic tiles. So I've got my little base in the bag full of mosaic tiles. They're all different colors. Some are pink, some are a greeny color, some are darker, like a brown and a blue color. And I started out by just sorting out these pieces into their kind of color families so I can figure out how I want to place them. And I'm taking inspiration from the picture on the box. So they put the darkest color of mosaic tile down the middle, kind of to act as like a stem in the middle of the leaf or the feather, whatever this may be. What's your vote? Let me know. So I'm placing those down the middle like a spine. And then I decided to do my colors with the pink on the bottom, the greeny bits in the middle, and then the lightest color at the very top. It's kind of fun that you can mix and match and put whatever wherever you want, but that's what spoke to me. So I did like a practice placement of everything just to see what I was working with before putting that cement in. This is what I ended up with, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's kind of like an ombre, and I do have some leftover pieces, which is great in case I have some extra space once I actually get that grout placed inside it. So then what I did is I carefully removed each of the pieces one by one, trying to kind of keep them in the same shape that they went in, so that once I get that grout in there, I have a bit of a guide to follow. So it says to pour in the grout powder and then fill it half with water. I assumed that just meant like equal parts powder to water, but that is not the case. You need way less water than powder, otherwise it's way too watery. So it was very liquidy at first, and then I just kept adding powder to make it a little bit thicker. And really, I'm just eyeballing it. I've never grouted anything, so I just made this up. But this seemed good, so I poured it into my base and I used my spoon to kind of spread it out. But it wasn't quite spreading to all the nooks and crannies, so I used the little paintbrush it came with to kind of spread it right to the corners. And I wanted it thick enough that I could kind of push the mosaic pieces down into it. And then I started placing in my pieces, which was pretty easy with the tweezers. I did drop a couple pieces and have them kind of roll over into the mixture, but we're gonna wipe it down and be adding a lot more of that cement mixture anyway, so it's fine. And I tried to follow my original pattern, but of course it wasn't exactly the same. And I did end up with a bit of extra space, so I was able to just shove a couple more little pieces in from the extras I had left over, and I'm pretty happy with that. That was kind of fun. It's like Tetris and crafting at the same time. So then I mixed up more of the cement powder to put on top, but because I just put this cement in for the bottom layer, they're not secured in place yet, so I'm a little nervous for when I scrape the top that they're going to move. And I think that's why the glue would be better. So I mixed up more powder. I made it a lot thicker this time, not really intentionally, but I think it's actually a good texture. Much more scrapable. I dolloped it on top and then used my scraper to spread it all out, which did end up putting some over the edges of the leaf or feather or whatever this may be. But that's okay, we're gonna go in and clean everything up. So then I took the included sponge and I wet it and then wrung it out and used it to wipe off the top of the mosaic pieces, which is kind of hard because there's so much of that grout in between. You're kind of just picking that up as well. So I did my best not to remove all the in-between grout, and I wiped off all my stones as best I could. There's still a little bit of residue left on them, but I'm hoping once it dries, it will all come off because it's just a very thin layer. So hopefully it can just wipe right off and won't be permanent. And there was a bunch in the outer edges as well, so I used my scraper to kind of dig it out of the cracks, and I used my sponge to kind of clean up the edges as well. This is what I was left with, and I'll check back in with you in 24 hours. All right, it's been 24 hours, and this is the result we're working with. There's definitely a bit of residue on top of the mosaic tiles, which I expected, but it's really thin and it's wiping away even just with my fingers. So I'm gonna go back in with that sponge and just give everything one final wipe. There are some cracks in the actual tiles where some of that grout has gone in, and I don't know if there's gonna be much I can do about that. I gave it a bit of a scrape and it does come off a little bit, but it doesn't affect the overall look too much. All the tiles are super clean now that I've wiped them with the sponge, and it looks pretty good. The grout in between does have quite a few cracks in it now that it's dried. And it's really uneven, which I expected because when I wiped it with the sponge, I could tell I was picking up a bunch of the grout from in between the stones. But everything feels really secure. I don't think any of these stones are going to be falling out. And from a distance, you can't see the cracks. It does look pretty good for what it is. Overall, I think I would give this craft a 6 out of 10. It was pretty fun to do, but it was challenging and not in a good way. Challenging in a way that it could be a more straightforward and better end result if things were a little bit different. My daughter's only 5 months old, so I don't know what a 5-year-old is capable of. But if you have a 5-year-old, do you think they'd be able to do this? I'm sure you'd want to give some supervision so that they're not eating any of the cement stuff. But yeah, thanks for crafting with me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Crafting for the Heck of It, and you can subscribe to my channel for all kinds of DIY content. I post videos weekly, apparently through hell or high water. If you have any suggestions for things I should try just for fun next, leave a comment below. I would love to hear your ideas. See you later.